Mining. Now, Joy News investigations have uncovered a secret illegal mining enclave deep within the Ahmiasto East Forest Reserve, with over 30 excavators destroying the natural resource. It's not clear who owns the huge illegal mining enclave, but locals in the area say the place has become a no-go area, even for farmers. The mining site is manned by military personnel and persons parading as national security operatives. Erastus Asari Donko has been providing details.
If you look at when we flew our drones, if you look at the enclave, you see mining spots within the forest area. And so it tells you that definitely this is not the first time. But we have been following up on this mining activity within the Ahmiasto East. In fact, it is off reserve, but is at the tail end of the Ahmiasto East Forest Reserve, and it's in the town of Diaso in the western region. Now, we have been monitoring them for some time now. They have military personnel protecting them. They have mounted a barrier manned by fully clothed military men and some people wielding a number of weapons, parading as national security operatives. And if you look at the scale of destruction, this mining has been going on for months within that particular enclave. We have submitted these footages to the necessary authorities who should know. And we were expecting that something would have been done by now, but we have not heard anything from them. And that is why we are also putting out this information. So yes, it's a secret mining, illegal mining enclave. I say illegal because we have checked. It's totally unregistered. The people operating in that enclave do not have any license whatsoever to be mining there, but already they've dug pits close to about 15 football fields combined.
Oh.
And that is why we are drawing the attention of the government to it. We work on complaints from communities. We have well-meaning Ghanaians who walk to, some of them travel very far to our newsroom in Kumasi to complain, to us that we should come to their aid. And we have such people who are saying that sometimes you get searched physically before you are even allowed to go through the barrier or go through that particular area to your own farm. And all because somebody is mining illegally within the enclave.
Meanwhile, the National Coalition Against Illegal Mining is issuing a final warning to the government to revoke Legislative Instrument 262462 or risk enabling legal mining in forest reserves. The LI automatically comes into force today unless it is withdrawn. Recall President John Mahama had promised in his 120-day address to scrap the entire Minerals Act when Parliament resumed. But the coalition says checks in the House show no such motion has been filed. Convener Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, addressing journalists at the International Press Center, insists the president, backed by a parliamentary majority, still has the power to stop the law.
The government must fulfill the promise to revoke LI 2462. The government made a solemn vow to the people of Ghana that LI 2462, the legal instrument that opened our forest reserves to mining, will be revoked, not amended, but scrapped entirely. This was communicated through several public declarations by His Excellency the President himself before and after the 2024 elections, echoed by government officials, including the Minister of State for Government Communications, the Minister of Communications, and the CEO of the Gold Board on the 23rd of April 2025. In fact, as recently as 8th of May 2025, Professor Jerry S. Waikuma, Special Advisor to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, equivocably stated, and I quote, "The President had listened to the concerns of the citizenry and the CSOs and has directed that the LI be revoked in its entirety." We are therefore disappointed that although the promise was made that the process to revoke LI would begin immediately Parliament resumes. However, to the best of our knowledge and belief, which was confirmed yesterday when members of the coalition met the chairperson of the subsidiary legislating committee, that there's no order of business of Parliament capturing this critical item. In our considered view, this demonstrates a lack of commitment by the government to carry out the revocation through. And it's a clear indication that the government is deliberately playing games with the citizens on this matter. Our demand for revocation of LI 2462 still stands to safeguard Ghana's forest and ecosystem services they provide for generations to come. We will not accept an amendment that responds to the interests of certain individuals, not taking into account the interests of the nation. The LI 2462 must be revoked, and it's with urgency. If the president does not act, the Environmental Protection into bracket minerals in forest reserve, mining in forest reserves amendment regulation 2025 will mature and come into effect today. As a people, our only recourse will be to continue our court case. This will be unfortunate at a time when Ghanaians expect a true reset in governance. The executive must not sit aloof while citizens are left to their fate to fight for the future of the very country we entrusted into the hands of His Excellency the President. So our resolve to the President is that it is true that today the 21 days would crystallize. But His Excellency, with the majority that he has in Parliament, would still be able to cause the two-thirds majority to cause a revocation of that particular LI.
Well, Collins Frimpong was at the press conference and joins me in studio. Now, Collins, you've been following the story keenly, and especially that briefing today. I understand that they talked about many things, including Dr. Hannah Bissue. What have they been saying? Let's start from there.
So, on 5th of June this month, Dr. Hannah Bissue, who is the administrator for the Minerals Commission, and her team visited a constituency in the Ashanti region, where I also come from. That's the Achman-Punwa. And one of the communities that they went to was the Akonfre community. And they uncovered, according to the information and also what we saw joining sources, they uncovered a whole forest where there was a filling station in that particular forest. And they arrested about 46 people, in which 24 of them were Chinese nationals and the remaining ones were Ghanaians. But on their way to that particular area, they encountered a lot of challenges, including the police. The personnel in that particular district or constituency prevented them from accessing the forest and also the community. And they were attacked as a result of that. And when they came back, there hasn't been any information on that. The coalition against Galamsey is urging President Mahama to conduct a full-scale investigations into that, because a whole minerals commission who are fighting illegal mining can't go into a forest and nothing will be done about it. And also they are urging government to provide resources to all the agencies that are fighting against illegal mining, including drones.
I mean, of course, you want to tell us where we can see that. You've got a video of that,
right,
yes.
Right? We commend the IGP and his team for stepping up efforts to combat illegal mining. It is, however, clear that the enforcement and compliance regime has cracks and needs to be fixed. The Akonfre confrontation, where the police allegedly shielded Chinese nationals engaged in Galamsey, is not only a demonstration of the complicity of some of the law enforcement agents in perpetuating this illegality, but also a disgrace to the entire national security apparatus that seems to favor foreigners caught in committing heinous crimes, particularly Galamsey. It is against this backdrop that we demand an immediate and transparent investigation, with all complicit officers from the district to regional command interdicted and prosecuted. We also demand public disclosure of all police transfers from Galamsey zones as promised by the Minister for Interior and the IGP. The seeming lapse in our law enforcement regime when it comes to Galamsey are not to say that our intelligence and preparedness to deal with armed incursions are weak. We are strong and we can do it if we want to do it. There are no justifications why illegal miners get away with all the atrocities they are committing across our country, displacing farmers, destroying rivers, and attacking public officers, both civilians and law enforcement agencies alike. The government must stop the kid gloves approach and act decisively. We have heard the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources tell us that this is terrorism. We've heard the IGP tell us that we are at war. If you have terrorists and you're at war with them, you don't deal with them like the way we are doing. 3, protect Forestry Commission staff. Another matter of grave concern is the increasing violent attacks on Forestry Commission officers. The brazen day-like attacks on these officers, even off duty, are a national embarrassment. There's an urgent need to guarantee the safety of Forestry Commission officers, men and women who risk their lives daily to protect our forest. If, as the CEO of Govt declared, mining in the forest reserves is haram to this government, then government must prove it. Repeal LI 2462. Arm our officers. The Forestry Commission should be giving enough firepower, more than what these mercenaries that have been brought in to provide security for these illegal miners have. Deal ruthlessly with apprehended officers and end the impunity. Number 4, we demand a state of emergency in the required areas now. And again, this is state of emergency in the required areas. We are not saying state of emergency in the entire country. If you read the Constitution, it talks about declaration of state of emergency in parts of the country, and that's what we're talking about. The recent near-fatal attack on Dr. Hannah Louisa Bisu, following an illegal mining raid at Bui Sobenso, as reported widely in the media on June 5th, 2025, by Amtax, is not an isolated incident. It is a symptom of the lawless epidemic within the mining zones. Gun-wielding gangs now operate with terrifying boldness. And if this government does not act decisively, no one is safe. This justifies our long-standing demand for a state of emergency in critical mining zones, enforced by military presence, drone surveillance, asset freezes, to propose just a few strategies. Illegal mining areas, in our estimation, appear to be a training ground for mercenaries that threaten the national security and stability of our democracy. So a state of emergency would empower the security forces to nip this emerging national security threat in the bud. If this is not done urgently, the repercussions will be dire. Anything could have happened to Dr. Hannah Bisu, the journalists who were there that day. And to think, as to quote her, that that machination was perpetuated by the police command, we asked that that police commander be interdicted and investigated and punished. And when these punishments are done, the police should not just hide them under their police. They should let everybody know, so that the police would know that if they do wrong, they also would be punished.
Also, Collins, beyond this, they've also been talking about persecution of the political class.
Yes. So, recently Yoko picked up the chairman for the NPP in the Ashanti region, Chairman Wuntumi, over his involvement in illegal mining. And they commended the government for such action that they've taken. But according to the Coalition Against Illegal Mining, they have also identified that Akonta Mining has 2 directors. And these people, they are heavily involved in illegal mining. So they want them to also, they want investigation to be extended to them so that the governments can know what really is happening and also prosecute them. Apart from that, early this year, NP for our win constituency, there were a lot of allegations about his involvement in illegal mining activities in our win, to the point that the traditional council in that particular area came out and also barred him from coming there. And Coalition Against Illegal Mining wrote a petition to the Speaker of Parliament as well as President John Dramani Mahama. And according to them, President John Mahama acknowledged the petition, but nothing has been done yet. They want President to resume investigations. For that matter, they want NIB to start the investigation right now and also make sure that anybody, or even if he is found guilty, must be prosecuted. They also talked about other political party figures that are also involved, especially those that are in the NDC, that they talked about Axim constituency, where the chairman for the NDC is also involved in illegal mining. Let's listen to what he said.
Number 5, prosecute politically exposed persons engaged in illegal mining. We commend our plea and are pleased with government's move to arrest the director of Akonta Mining Limited, Mr. Bernard Enchibu-Esako, after the coalition's press release, which you, the media, published widely. It is crucial to complete this process by arresting and prosecuting all directors of Akonta Mining Limited. When the media coalition against Galamsey did the check, there are 2 directors of that company. They are the same beneficial owners as well. So those 2 directors should not only be arrested, but prosecution should happen. We have, however, observed and condemned resoundingly the alarming pattern of some officials from the ruling NDC being involved in illegal mining. After the unresolved case of Honorable Oscar Labi, MP for our win, we have a petition with His Excellency the President that he has acknowledged receipt of. New reports implicate the NDC constituency chairpersons in Axim and Dunkwao of being deeply involved in Galamsey operations. This hypocrisy is unacceptable. While the NDC leadership under His Excellency the President publicly condemned illegal mining, the Honorable Minister of Lands and Natural Resources and IGP have demonstrated positive actions to deal with the scourge of Galamsey. However, some of their local officials allegedly profit from it. We demand, 1, that immediate investigations into the case of Honorable Oscar Labi, MP for our win, and the chiefs that have accused him, that he has counter-accused. And these 2 chairpersons of Axim, constituency chairpersons of Axim and Dunkwao, by the police and national security, ensuring complete transparency and no room for political protection. 2, public disciplinary action by the NDC if any of these allegations are proven.
Well, Collins, that's a tall list of demands. However, the very popular Professor Frimpong's report, some sort actually featured in this first briefing, right?
Yes, you know, we can talk about fighting illegal mining without talking about that particular report, which Professor himself stepped down from his position. And the Coalition Against Illegal Mining says that President Mahama should look into the report because it is one of the main tools during his campaign ahead of the 2024 elections. He talked about that when he comes to power, he's going to make sure that all the people that are implicated in that particular report are prosecuted, and they want that to happen. Let's listen to him.
Investigations of all mentioned in the Professor Frimpong Boateng report. There are a lot of politically exposed persons that have been mentioned in that report, and that should be looked into. And finally, transparent prosecution with no political protection. We've heard the president say that he will not cover anybody. We've heard the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources say that there would be no, what do they normally call it, order from above, so far as this is concerned. We need to see that translated into action. We have given the names of 3 of those who are in the ruling government. We also have the directors of Akonta Mining Limited, one of whom was with the former government, and we have a plethora of a lot of them in the Frimpong Boateng report who have all been implicated. You have the examples of Heritage Imperial, who were giving either a prospecting lease, and they went into one of the forest reserves with over 30 excavators. That case is also available. So that you, the media, have a lot of named officials who have been implicated in Galamsey, and a lot of them are politically exposed. And if you remember, in October last year at Kempinski, His Excellency the President stated that to deal with Galamsey is not the young boys who we find in the pit, but it is the kingpins. So our call to His Excellency the President is, as he's done with some of the promises he gave, he should also deal with the politically exposed persons, the kingpins who are involved in Galamsey.
You're still watching The Pulse. Now, joining me on phone is Coordinator of Eco-Conscious Citizens, Aula Sewa. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. So, with all of these demands from the coalition, and including yourself personally, does it look like the government is listening anyway, especially because today the full-fledged LI will take force? Does it look like the government is listening?
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me. You know, from where we are sitting, it's very, very disappointing that LI 2462, which was a low-hanging fruit, was Parliament, was an amendment rather than a revocation. It should have been so easy for the current administration to repeal LI 2462 and get some goodwill. So, Honorable Sami Jamfi had said that as soon as Parliament resumes, LI 462 be revoked. That has not happened. So if it doesn't give a lot of, shall I say, credibility. So we are hoping that the President will live up to his promises that he made in the run-up to the elections and ensure that LI 2462 is revoked. That is a low-hanging fruit. Then the other demands that my brother Ken has, you know, I don't have to go, but then my brother Ken has done a fantastic job. They have to be met. We need a targeted state of emergency. We need a pause in community mining. I've already talked about the repeal of LI 2462. And we need everybody mentioned in Professor Frimpong Boateng's report to be investigated, prosecuted, and if found guilty, their assets sold and used towards the cost of reclamation. Because we need to go by the principle of the polluter pays. You cannot pollute our environment and just walk away.
Well, I've seen that you, again, including the coalition, even before today, you have made calls. Apart from you citing Sami Jamfi speaking that when Parliament resumes, they are going to repeal that LI, have you seen other relevant stakeholders beyond their CSOs making an effort to at least push the government, put pressure on the government, really, to repeal this LI, and the many other requests from you?
Well, I know that, for example, the Academy of Arts and Sciences have added their voice, and others have added their voice. So it's quite clear. It's quite clear that the majority of Ghanaians don't understand why we want to have mining in forest reserves, and that under the old guidelines, for example, we could only mine up to 2% in the production forest reserves. With the LI 2462, that caveat has been removed, and there's virtually unfettered access to our forest reserves. There's a reason why we call them forest reserves. So others have added their voice, and I'm sure the President, if is a listening government, they will listen and revoke LI 2460. It's a low-hanging fruit. And let me add at this point that we face an existential threat. We cannot afford to be dilly-dallying, and that's why we must declare a state of emergency. Because Ghana is fast thinking to lawless state, and the environmental terrorists, if we don't set in a state of emergency, will begin to control parts of Ghana, as happens in Latin American countries. Look at what recently happened to the sub-chief, I've forgotten the area, who was almost killed because he tried to stop illegal mining. We need to sit up. We need to sit up and act quickly before the window of opportunity closes.
What kind of state of emergency are you asking for? An entire state of emergency or targeted?
No, a targeted state of emergency. So we are targeting hotspots where we know the illegal miners are, some of the forest reserves, you know, the water bodies, where we know the illegal miners are. We just go to those specific areas. Get rid of the illegal. When I say get rid of them, I don't mean shoot to kill. I mean, you remove them and you remove their equipment. And those on the water body, the Ancombra River has been diverted. What is happening? Other rivers have been diverted. Water is life, and if we keep on not taking the bull by its horns, by the time we decide to act, it will be too late. We'll all be poisoned.
Let's talk about how the government...
I just can't say as robustly as I'm saying it now. We face an existential threat. Our water is being poisoned. And even when the water looks transparent, it doesn't mean it doesn't have mercury or cyanide because it doesn't have a color. So we really need to act. They are terrorists. Because even in wartime, when you poison water, it's an act of war. So we want a targeted state of emergency, specific to the areas that have been taken over by the illegal miners.
Right. Well, let's talk about what the government is doing currently, at least to fight, beyond the request that it should repeal LI 2462. So quite recently, the government has rolled out a plan and says that in terms of excavators or machinery that would the people use for mining, it will be prohibited. If you have the permit, then you can import it. What do you make of this rollout by the government?
You see, I don't understand why we don't put a pause on bringing in excavators. Because we know what we are like. We can't enforce anything. So what I would suggest, with the greatest respect, is that we pause the importation of excavators. Excavators have very limited use. We have sufficient excavators in the country that those who need it for construction can hire them. But what happens most of the time is that the excavators will find their way to our factories. We know that. We know that. Even the measures we are bringing in, can we enforce them? No. So I would say just stop the importation of excavators. Anybody who needs one can lease the existing ones in the country. That to me would be the simplest course of action.
So if the government really doesn't heed to the call as CSOs and for people like you, how much pressure can you give to the government to insist on this?
You see, at the end of the day, Ghanaians are being poisoned. Some people mistakenly think that, it's only affecting the illegal mining belt. Actually, it isn't. First of all, the water you drink, you don't know where exactly it's coming from. And like I said, Ghana water doesn't remove the mercury or cyanide if it's present. Also, the foodstuff, whether it's yam or plantain, do you know where it's coming from? Your consumery. So we face an existential threat. As the waters are poisoned, your fish is being poisoned, your farmlands are being poisoned. So if Ghanaians are not angry enough, if Ghanaians are not angry enough at being poisoned, to say that if you won't take drastic action, we'll hit the streets or we'll lay down our tools, then I'm afraid we'll all just sit there and be poisoned. I was speaking to a doctor in the illegal mining belt. He was saying that a while ago, people coming to him with kidney problems were way past their 40s, 50s. Now you have teenagers. So if you don't understand the danger in which we are in, added to that, there are also national security threats because, some areas will soon become no-go areas and will be controlled by the environmental terrorists. If Ghanaians are not angry enough at the fact that soon our cocoa will not be accepted, we'll be told it's poison. Already we've heard about palm oil plantations being destroyed, farmlands being destroyed, cocoa farms being destroyed. If Ghanaians are not angry enough, then so be it. Ghanaians need to be angry enough, and government is about numbers. When they find out that Ghanaians are angry and being poisoned, trust me, they'll take the steps they need to take.
Thank you so much, Olasawa, for talking to us. She's Coordinator, Eco-Conscious Citizens. Thank you for joining us today on The Pulse. Now,